Hare Do our host and hostess know what's happening here? Next week in the world of ISKCON is World Holy Name Week. They just arbitrarily picked next week. It's not like on our Vaishnav calendar, but it's the plan is for one full week, for 4 hours every evening India time, 4 speakers, 4 speakers, 4 speakers for a whole week. I'm one of the 4 speakers. This class is for that presentation next week, 1 hour of the 7 days, having 4 hours each day class. That's what we're doing. So in addition to that nice camera right there, there's a plan that this will be recorded, and then however many viewers will view it during World Holy Name Week. So you're the host and hostess of 1 hour's worth of World Holy Name. And that's the topic. It was selected by the organizer. Are we ready to roll? Lights, action, camera. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sanyavadi Paschatya Desatarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I hope you're all able to see this nice image of Srila Vyasadeva, the compiler of all the Vedas. As you know, Vyasadeva is an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he has the capacity to see Trikalagya, to see perfectly past, present, and future. And he looked into the future and saw that the age of Kali was coming. And he saw what the qualities of the age of Kali were. And he decided, I have to do something. When you see many people are going to be in distress, a compassionate person actually considers, what can I do? So being a literary personality, that's what he decided to do. He took all of the Vedas, which were previously present simply in sound from teacher to disciple through generations. In the age of Kali, people will have short memories. And so he wrote them down, and he also divided them, Veda Vyasa, to make it easier to access for people of this age of Kali. This is all described in the first canto, chapter 5 of Srimad Bhagavatam. And he very much desired to bring light into this dark age of Kali. But after all that work, there was still insufficiency. And so, under the instructions of Narada, he compiled this Srimad Bhagavatam. And the verse that I'd like to speak about this evening is a verse from Canto 12, Chapter 3, Srimad Bhagavatam, which describes the features of the four ages, and particularly the feature of this age of Kali. I'm going to read some verses directly from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3. When greed, dissatisfaction, false pride, hypocrisy, and envy become prominent, along with attraction for selfish activities, such a time is the age of Dwarapa, dominated by the mixed modes of passion and ignorance. That was a better mode than this one, better age than this one. When there is predominance of cheating, lying, sloth, sleepiness, violence, depression, lamentation, bewilderment, fear, and poverty, that age is Kali, the age of the mode of ignorance. Because of the bad qualities of the age of Kali, human beings will become short-sighted, unfortunate, gluttonous, lustful, and poverty-stricken. The women, becoming unchaste, will freely wander from one man to the next. Cities will be dominated by thieves. The Vedas will be contaminated by speculative interpretations, and atheists, political leaders will virtually consume the citizens, and the so-called priests, intellectuals, will be devotees of their bellies and genitals. And you know the rest. The description is quite frightening. There's pages and pages and pages of description that leads us to this very celebrated and famous verse that we're all quite familiar with. Let's recite it together. Kalir dosha nidhe rajan asti eko mahan gunan kirtanad eva krishnasya mukta sangam param vrajet. My dear king, although Kali Yuga is an ocean of faults, dosha nidhe, there is still one good quality about this age. What's that? Simply by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha mantra, one can become free from material bondage and be promoted to the transcendental kingdom. That's very hopeful. Mukta Sangha, Param Vrajet. This doshanidhe, this ocean of faults, becomes passed beyond by this one thing, Eka Mahan Gunan, one good quality. The kirtan of the holy names of the Lord is celebrated in the Srimad Bhagavatam from the very beginning, because Srimad Bhagavatam is particularly meant for people in this age of Kali. We find this from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 3. After Krishna has departed, it's described in the same message in the previous chapter of this 11th canto, that by Krishna's being present on earth during Dwarapa Yuga, just by the mark of his lotus feet on earth, everything became auspicious by his power, by his virtue, by his purity. Everything inauspicious went far away. He annihilated the miscreants and he protected the devotees, but after Krishna has left, what will be the source of protecting religious principles? And that's this kirtan of the holy name and form and pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The holy name appears as Krishna himself. This is a very important teaching in our Vaishnav Siddhanta. The name and the person name, Nama and Nami, they're the same. And we can get the association of the Supreme Pure just by associating with the chanting of the names of Hare. Kirtanad eva Krishnasya mukta sangha param brajet. The supreme destination we're immediately in contact with, because Krishna and Krishna's abode are non-different. Wherever Krishna is, his abode is there. So when we're having kirtan, we're in the presence, through sound, of the form of Krishna's name. Because Krishna's name is not merely a sound, Krishna's name has form. Now that's a very important reality. It's not easy for persons in this covered consciousness in the age of Kali to fully realize. But one who takes faithfully and seriously and sincerely to the chanting of the holy name, the cleansing benefit that's found in each of the other ages for achieving perfection is achieved simply through the chanting of the holy name. The very next verse, as you probably know, is this celebrated verse that describes the 4 ages. You'll see it on the screen here. Kriteya dhyayato Vishnum. In Satya Yuga or Krita Yuga, the process of dhyayate, of meditation, is the process that's recommended. And in Treta Yoga, yajato makai, the process of sacrifice. The Lord is worshipped by the process of Vedic yajna. And in Dwarapa Yuga, the process of archa, the process of deity worship, is the primary means of achieving perfection. And in this age of Kali, Hare Kirtan, the congregational chanting of the holy names of the Lord. There's a very wonderful teaching given by Rupa Goswami connected with this process of chanting. Atak Shri Krishna namadi na bhaved grayam indriyai sevan mukhihi jivado swayam eva sparatyada. The access to the personality of Godhead is not easy, because he's of this transcendental nature. So our senses do not have the capacity to reach him. But we can reach him by the process of devotional service. And this process of devotional service, it begins with the tongue. The service to the Supreme Lord by these very 2 simple processes. One is very easy, taking Krishna Prasadam, and the other, tasting and vibrating. chanting the holy name in the mood, chanting the holy name in the mood of serving the name, of serving Krishna. And serving Krishna means, of course, serving all that is expansion and extension from Krishna, all his parts and parcel living entities. Here's a very nice translation of that verse. Material senses cannot appreciate Krishna's holy name, form, qualities, and pastimes. But when a conditioned soul is awakened to Krishna consciousness and renders service by using his tongue to chant the holy name and taste the remnants of the Lord's food, the tongue is purified and one gradually comes to understand who Krishna really is. I really like that conclusion that Prabhupada has presented. Because we all have some idea of who Krishna is. Very easily we can say Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But to know who Krishna really is takes Krishna revealing himself to you. When Krishna reveals himself, when any person reveals themselves to you in confidence, you know who that person really is. And we want to know who Krishna really is. And so it's extremely helpful to take up the chanting of the holy name in a mood of service. In connection with this particular verse, Kaler Doshanate Rajan, this wonderful verse is often accompanied by some verses that are found in the previous chapter, the previous canto, Canto 11, Chapter 3, verse 36, which I'm also going to very briefly read for you. This is a discussion between Narada Muni and Vyasadeva just before Krishna's departure, when Dwaraka was still manifest in this world. Narada Muni visited Dwaraka and had an extended discussion with Vasudeva, because Vasudeva felt he was Krishna's father, but he never really had heard the glories, the full glories of Krishna, so he made this appeal to Narada, who very happily was in ecstasy to describing the glories of Krishna. Narada says to Vasudeva, those who are actually advanced in knowledge are able to appreciate the essential value of this age of Kali. Such enlightened persons worship Kali Yuga. Such enlightened persons worship Kali Yuga. I thought it's a bad age. So why would they worship Kali Yuga? It's such a bad age. We heard all the bad things about Kali Yuga, and it doesn't take too much to understand difficulties that are increasing and spiraling out of control, social, political, violence, and everything. Such enlightened persons worship Kali Yuga because in this fallen age, all perfection of life can easily be achieved by the performance of Sankirtan. Now, in the midst of performing Sankirtan in this age of Kali, there's plenty of distraction, plenty of disturbance, plenty of internal and external turmoil all around. In the age of Kali, those persons who drink the waters of the holy rivers will almost be pure-hearted devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva. Yeah. Indeed, there is no higher possible gain for embodied souls forced to wander throughout the material world than the Supreme Lord's Sankirtan movement, by which one can attain the supreme peace and free oneself from the cycle of repeated birth and death. The mission of human existence is to constantly remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The test of the success of all activities is that constant remembrance. The rule that governs all of the vidhis of the do's and the don'ts is the constant remembrance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, our aim is to keep our attention fully focused on Krishna, and the best means to keep the mind in this age of Kali, to keep the mind fully focused on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the chanting of the holy name. I'm going to play a very short video of Srila Prabhupada speaking about the faith that he invested in the chanting of the holy name. So you can see on this screen here a nice image of Prabhupada in Tompkins Square Park, celebrated scene. And he's going to describe how he began the Hare Krishna movement with simply his intense, total faith in the chanting of the holy name. So let us begin.
We are chanting Hare Krishna. We may not understand what is meaning of Hare Krishna, but still, because it is transcendental sound, it is auspicious. Wherever you chant Hare Krishna, they may hear or they may not hear, it is auspicious for them. So we are sending our men for street Sankirtana. It doesn't matter whether people are eager to hear it or not, but it is auspicious. It will create an atmosphere which is very, very congenial to the human society. That should be our principle. Not that because we are chanting, nobody is taking care, we shall not be disappointed. This Sankirtan movement is so nice that simply by chanting, the vibration will create an auspicious atmosphere. Very honest people. Now you can practically see those who are old members. So I began in this New York, in that storefront, simply by chant. So I did not bribe you American boys and girls to come after me. This only asset was chant. That Tompkins and this Brahmananda Swami, he first came to dance with my chant. He and Achyutananda. That was the first dancing of our Krishna conscious movement. Yes. And I had no mridangas. That was what is that? Little drum. So I was chanting Hare Krishna from 2 to 5, 3 hours. And so many boys and girls were coming and joining. And there was first photograph in the Times, New York Times, they appreciated, and people also appreciated. So this chanting, the beginning was only chanting. There is nothing more. At that time there was no program of prasad distribution. That later on it came. So we should always be confident that this chanting is not a vibration of this material world. This is not vibration of material. Narottam Das Thakur says, Golokera premo dhana hari nama sankir. It is imported from the spiritual world.
New York City is not well known for being a place of auspiciousness. And that's the place where Srila Prabhupada began, and he had all faith that an atmosphere of auspiciousness would be created simply by people hearing this sound vibration, transcendental sound vibration. The words that Prabhupada spoke were very pure, very powerful, and very realized. People may understand, they may not understand, but the sound vibration itself creates an atmosphere of auspiciousness for everyone. Whether they like, they do not like, they understand, they don't understand. And how that sound vibration acts, of course, we all devotees have our own direct experience and our own anecdotal appreciations. I wanted to share one little story that I think you'll enjoy hearing. It just expresses the power of the holy name. I remember one morning in New York. It was hot July summer morning, and at the end of class, Trivikram Swami stood up towards the front of the temple room and asked Prabhupada, when people make fun of the chanting of the holy name, he gestured right out the window. There was a schoolyard. And when we come back from Harinam, the children laugh. Oh, Hare Krishna, ha 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 ha. And they would do it every day. So his question was, is that offensive? And those of you that know Trivikram Swami, you can imagine the voice inflection. And Prabhupada's immediate reply was, no, that's very nice. So although their attitude was not favorable attitude, bhakti is with a favorable attitude, but even just hearing, that's very nice. It's nam abas, but that nam abas, hela nam abas, sanketa nam abas, these different forms of nam abas, they're also very powerful. So I just described the situation a little bit more in detail. Where the Henry Street Brooklyn Temple was situated was on a corner, and right on the other corner adjacent to us was an elementary school. And in Brooklyn there were very, very tall, 10-foot tall maybe, wrought iron fences painted black to keep people from climbing over the fence, I guess. And the schoolyard was inside the fence. So we would come home for lunch daily, which happened to be at the time of their lunch break at school, and our devotees would perform kirtan all the way from the subway to the temple. And the children knew when we were coming, and they would come and stand by the fence and laugh, make fun, and joke, and ridicule the devotees and their chanting. So fast forward over time, just some appreciation for you all. As a sannyasi, I was accustomed to travel, and one time I was passing through the Detroit airport on changing flights, just waiting for the next departure. And down the corridor came a group of airline employees, and they were having a good time together, laughing and joking, and that kind of a little loud, but joyful loud, going down the hallway. And then all of a sudden, one of the persons who was in that group stopped, looked at me like he saw a ghost. His jaw dropped, his face turned pale, and he told his friends to go ahead and he would catch up with them. And he came up to me, dressed as I am, as a devotee, and said, "Are you a Hare Krishna devotee?" And I said, "Yes. How did you know?" And he grabbed his head and said, "Oh, no." And I didn't know what that meant. So I asked him, "What's wrong?" And he said, "I grew up in Brooklyn, and we used to make fun of the Hare Krishna people all the time. We would sit in the schoolyard, and when you'd come, the Hare Krishna people would come back for their lunch. We'd stand at the gate and just laugh and laugh." And I said, "Oh, I remember that. I was in the temple." And he grabbed his head again and said, "Oh, no." And he said, "We were so bad. All the neighbors treated you so bad. We would throw rocks through the windows. Sometimes the older kids would burn your cars if you left them on the street. But you always did good things for people. You fed people. You were always nice to people no matter what they did. And you know what?" I said, "What?" "Just today, as I was coming from work, the melody that you used to sing, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, it was going on in my mind. And I started singing it aloud in front of the co-workers. And you know what? They laughed at me just like we laughed at you. But all the while, this melody and the mantra that you sing, the song that you sing, it was always stay in my mind. I felt so bad about how badly we treated you. And then I saw you standing here in the corridor, and I thought, oh, we did such bad things to you people." And I was moved by the man was very emotional. I knew he and his little boyfriends when they were in school, but here's now this person that's an adult, and Krishna hasn't left his mind just from thinking of the holy name that he heard just for a short while on our way back from Harinam Sankirtan. Daily, at least 5 days of the week when the school was in session. And it stayed with him. Now, he hadn't become a sadhaka, but that sound vibration made a permanent impression on his heart. In his parting words, he said, "You people do good work. Keep it up." And I said, "Will do." And I was thinking Krishna was speaking through this young man. Now, Prabhupada didn't have that kind of encouragement when he brought the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra to New York City. But he had profound faith in the power of the holy name, and that profound faith brought auspiciousness to the city of New York and wherever our founder Acharya would go to give the holy name to people, on the strength of the words spoken in Srimad Bhagavatam by Shukadev Goswami and all of the other speakers of the power of the holy name as mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam and our other transcendental literatures. Those who take this congregational chanting of the holy name, that means not only having kirtan in our temples where groups of devotees come together for the pleasure of the deity and sing joyously the holy name, but even more specifically, the Yoga Dharma taking the chanting of the holy name into public places, as is done in many places, at least where governments allow it to happen, into the public forum, and engage in congregational chanting of the holy name. Now this kirtan, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains, this kirtan is not only the musical kind, kirtan, that's one kind, but in addition, Harikatha, specifically he taught again and again, the topics of the personality of Godhead is also kirtan. And when engaged in assemblies of devotees, it's Sankirtana. This is his explicit teaching. So whether it's, as you see this, like this nice image here, this chanting of the holy name performed by using our japa beads and calling softly so that Krishna can hear and we can hear the sound of Krishna's name audibly, that connection with Krishna is also established very wonderfully. This is our essential practice in Krishna consciousness, the chanting of Krishna's holy name. And instantly we can connect with the personality of Godhead. Each of us have our realizations and our methods that help us make that connection with Krishna strong. And this World Holy Name Week is meant to give a boost to all the members of different categories of ashrams and situations of life to connect again more strongly, more consciously, more completely in the chanting, the congregational chanting of the holy names of the Lord. So I'm grateful to Lokanath Maharaj for inviting me to participate in this concert of our ISKCON members and leaders and speakers to give some glorification of the chanting of the holy name of Krishna. Thank you all very much. I hope you all have a wonderful Holy Name Week and year and life. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Prabhupada ki jai. You don't need to cut it? You'll cut it later. Okay. Your lovely daughter was having a good time. It was a little distracting. I hope you don't mind that Shatarupa. So, how much time was that?
Like half an hour, 35 minutes, 40 minutes.
Because they allotted
40 minutes.
40 minutes? Okay. They allotted 1 hour. But I think that's okay. Let's have a break. Little distracted. Let's see, maybe I'll do this again another time. It's okay. Maybe, let's see, maybe for the Sunday feast program. Again, more prepared, less distracted. Okay, so if there's any thoughts on this topic or comments or something you would like to discuss a little bit, host or hostess get the first shot. How about your mother?
She really reads and chants very nicely. She reads Bhagavatam and take good notes.
You take notes. Yes. What language do you read in?
In English and Telugu.
English. You read in English?
Yes,
What's your mother tongue?
Telugu.
Telugu. It's available in Telugu.
I know English also.
Okay. Okay.
She has a master's degree.
Master's degree in
Political science.
political science. And you studied in English medium.
Yes.
Where?
Only a master's and a degree, English medium.
Back in India.
Back in India, in English medium.
I
Well.
was about that age. I was constantly crying, and she had me in the lap and wrote her exam.
You're very patient. Okay.
There's a question from Pablo Alberto Prabhu. I forgot his initiated name. Sometimes people criticize Prabhupada's books are for neophytes, but they do not understand that he brought the topmost of treasury, the holy name. Just making a comment.
Well, the primary one of the books that Srila Prabhupada translated, Nectar of Instruction, Nectar of Devotion, Srimad Bhagavatam, and Chaitanya Charitamrita, are the most elevated teachings on the planet. So somebody that speaks like that is has a misunderstanding, to put it mildly. Now, the audience that Prabhupada was speaking to was the world. And he knew his audience. And the world in this age are overwhelmed by the adverse influences of this age of Kali. Consciousness is very contaminated in general. One reads carefully in the Srimad Bhagavatam and one can understand the degree to which consciousness is covered. I mean, in other words, there's a gold standard of what pure consciousness is, and the idea of what people have grown to become accepted and accustomed to, it's that the covering is so thick. So he knew his audience, and he had to speak according to his audience. And when he spoke according to his audience, he had to use entry-level language. But you read Prabhupada's books carefully, and you will find very elevated, very esoteric, very profound teachings appropriate for the audience, presented appropriately for the audience. And those that are careful readers can gather those minds, those special messages, very easily. But they very easily becomes possible through congregational chanting of the holy name and the purification that comes from that. So do we have other?
I have a question, Prabhupada. Fine.
Go ahead, you're on.
So I'll be brutally honest. Okay. So I go to his Maharaj, and I talk about that in the locality in my locality here. And a lot of people actually don't like it. Now we,
They don't like
well, it's
the
almost
message or the organization?
I don't know if I don't know how to say or they don't like what I'm saying, but um, Mataji, Premanand Mataji says, you can have a reading group or, a congregation, such kind of thing. So we can form a group here, but
Okay.
nobody wants to can at least listen to it. Kind of is unpopular. I'm sure you have seen this everywhere also.
Sure, it's the age of
So
Kali.
what? Sure. Yes. Yes. So do you have any suggestions for me? How to pull people towards Krishna? I know in this area, in this COVID time, I couldn't invite many people. Otherwise, at least few would have come, I think. But the others wouldn't like it.
Well, here's some suggestions. Same as what I suggested to Premananda long ago when I first met her and her husband before Mukunda was born. That was a few years ago. By nature, she gives. And she wanted to give. And they were living in Gray's Lake, which is like way out there. And so I just suggested have a little gathering with just, cause she knew two Gujarati families, Patel families, and just, get together with the kids. 3, 4 kids. And just do that. Start that up in Gray's Lake. And they just grew it. And within 6 months, it was 15 children. And in 1 year, it was 30 children. No, it started with the children. Because, she's just a lovely, bubbly, happy person when she's with children. Then, they just, it grew. And then once that grew, then the adults were taking advantage. They thought it was a good babysitting opportunity. We trust her to take care of our children, and they get to have social interaction with other kids their age, and it's all nice and safe. So we'll go off and do shopping or whatever we want to do. Little daycare, for a couple hours. But then when the kids started becoming spiritually benefited, then the parents, the light went on to the parents. Maybe we should learn something about this. So then there was this other program for the adults. Now that's just one model. Starting with the children. You have a school-age daughter here. How old are you? Yeah, how old?
I'm 10.
You're 10. So you're doing some homework or an exam or something?
No, I was doing class.
You're in a class?
Online class.
In the evening?
She has a
Wow.
math class.
Math class? In the evening? School class? Or a tutorial, special thing? Okay, so you get the idea. That's one approach. Then, you're asking for some suggestions. So another suggestion is similar principle, but just find 1 or 2 people. It doesn't have to be in the immediate neighborhood. Proximate is good, but it doesn't have to be. So something that starts with children, something that starts small, that's just people that like to hear. And something, they'll experience something. I've been visiting, they've made arrangements for visiting homes of many people that are part of these little reading groups. And so the people are kind of new, and they got kind of like all kinds of new people questions, because they're coming with something that they heard before, they kind of grew up with. It wasn't Krishna Bhakti. And they're trying to, put together what they heard before with Krishna Bhakti and see how it fits together. And it's nourishing their faith, and they feel good about it. They're in a safe atmosphere. So something that's quality and consistent will grow. Those two, quality and consistency, it'll grow. That's what I told Premananda twice. Then they moved from Grays Lake to Naperville. She did the same thing. Started from zero, did the same thing, and it grew. And some of those young people that she was working with, they're now teachers of Bhagavad Gita, because she, for like your daughter's age, she taught them Bhagavad Gita. The whole thing. And then they wanted to hear it again, so she did it again, twice through. And now they're teaching Bhagavad Gita, and they're living a life of devotion to Krishna as taught in Bhagavad Gita, because she took the time. So it's not... an energetic girl. Was your older girl like that when she was younger?
Yes.
I see. Pretty much. She's very calm now.
Yes, very calm.
The little one is all over the place. Okay. Your parents just shared with me that when you were your sister's age, you were kind of energetic like she is. But now you're very calm. At least it appears. At least in front of me, you're being very calm and patient. Good qualities. Help your sister learn them. But you got to be patient, because older sisters kind of sometimes push their younger sister to, hey, get it together, will you? But I'm sure you'll be patient. So, quality and consistency, those are, whether it's with adults or children or combination. It can be separate, or it can be a combination. But it doesn't have to be a large group. It doesn't have to be a large group. Just some people that, like, they have their heart is oriented towards something that's genuine, something that resonates and is pure. They don't have to agree to everything. They feel that there's some faith. I feel something when I read in this kind of atmosphere, which in other words, they may not read on their own unless they have some association to read with. So you just have to find those persons. It doesn't have to be many, just a few. And then, it'll grow on its own. Quality and consistency, and it will grow. That's the tip or recommendation. And then a second, a general principle, is your own spiritual purity. Purity is the force. There's a saying. Anyway, there's 4 parts to it, but that's one of them. Purity is the force. So as you become pure, then it will have its impact on, first of all, your family. And probably your mother's qualities are passed on to you. And so she's the mother purity. In her association are gaining from that. And then you, as the father and husband, you pass that on to your family members. And then that will be a nice example. Besides, you'll be fulfilling your duty, your obligation. It's exemplary. And that is to say, it will help attract people. Because people go through troubles in the age of Kali. And when they see a person who's very balanced, very caring, very pure-hearted, that's attractive. Maybe it's threatening to some people because you're not like them. But it's attracted to people whose hearts are, there's some remaining degrees of goodness in their modes of nature, and that it's attractive. So that's the magnet that will attract the iron filings, just your own good qualities and good character that will grow and grow and grow from your own spiritual practice and connection. But to expand that circle is what your question is. It's, achar speaks stronger than prachar. So that's the second, recommendation. Be patient and be of good character, good quality, and people that are of a goodness nature will be attracted. And you're inviting them into association where you're not like the controller or anything. You're a facilitator for hearing transcendental sound vibrations. And Krishna will see that. It will help you. Let it go. Better that it grows slowly, anyways, because if you got too many people that are kind of out there and have their doubts and their other stuff going on, then it might be a little difficult. So slow is good. Krishna's plan.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. This Prabhupada video, I might have seen more than 5-6 times, but every time we see, it's so moving.
Yes.
Just with the opportunity that we have. We were reading in our Delhi Srimad Bhagavatam reading just before the class, second canto, second chapter. So Shukadeva Goswami is describing for the persons who are totally into grossly materialistic, for them it's better to meditate on the gigantic universal form, whereas persons open, they can take up to deity worship and on the Sachidananda Vigraha form. So I was just trying to understand, Guru Maharaj, with respect to that video, for anyone, it's creating that kind of auspiciousness. So what exactly is that shift, like for the people who are grossly into materialistic? I mean, I was thinking of myself as I was reading the purport. I don't think I'm better than any of those so-called people that Prabhupada is describing. What's the shift for us to start appreciating and connecting with the devotees and the holy name?
Is your question coming from this statement over here that speaks of the universal form and the other one that speaks of the importance of the holy name? Specifically, that's where your question is coming from. Let me ask you, from your understanding of how Prabhupada introduced Krishna consciousness in the West, A or B? Did he present to the public knowing that they're who they are? Fix your mind on the universal form. No. Or did he encourage them to take prasadam and chant the holy name? So it doesn't negate option A, but it's more of a classical. This is me speaking. It's more of a classical approach for persons that just don't have any. They have a religious tendency, but no conception of God as a person. The audience that Prabhupada was dealing with, they don't have much piety. They're victims of the age or products of the age of Kali, and so for them, that's the Yuga Dharma. And very quickly, the Yuga Dharma proved to be effective at cleansing and elevating of consciousness, both cleaning the dirty things and lifting the good things. So then look at ourselves, or yours. You can look at yourself. The primary. It's kind of like going back and to like look at what the structure of Canto 2 Srimad Bhagavatam says. It's speaking of principles, but where your attention and focus should go is not. You need to, from zero, have a conception of God as a person. That's for those people. And then it goes to the Paramatma feature, and then it goes to the Bhagavan feature realized through devotional service. Prabhupada put us on that elevator and pushed the button. And no, and you have so much, just from your upbringing, your birth in India, compared to the Western people that Prabhupada was dealing with. There's a punya just by taking birth in India that you have that his other audience didn't have. So you don't need to worry about it, in short. You need to backtrack, and it may be helpful. It's not maybe. It is helpful to get some understanding of the universal form. But I've been practicing Krishna consciousness for a good number of years now, and I'm starting to get a better grip on what the universal form is. But that's not primary. The primary is the holy name. That's every day, as deeply as possible, every day. And then I'll get the capacity to have some better understanding of what the universal form is, and Vedic cosmology and all of that. It's a nice topic, Vedic cosmology. And that's the universal form.
This question is from Giridhar Otikota Prabhu. As an aspiring devotee, what does it mean to chant at soul platform? How can I implement it in my chanting?
The best, keeping it really simple, hear. And if you hear, you'll have an understanding. And the only way you're going to get an understanding of chanting from the soul platform, because otherwise you'll be approaching it through the mind, and that's not going to get you to the soul platform. But the ear, or as Shatrupa can teach you more about hearing with the spiritual ear. You were sharing that you were explaining that in your Bhakti Shastri class. So it's not just, that this fleshy thing on the side of the head. That it's the capacity, the innate capacity of the soul through the medium of the coverings to hear spiritual sound. So strive to hear the sound. The mind will then become captured, and then you'll be able to hear with the spiritual ear. That's my answer to your question. And it works.
And this question is from Radha, Paramarupa Prabhu's daughter.
You're how many years old? She's 9. Okay.
How to develop interest in chanting of the holy name? It is distracting when other kids around me have phones in their hands and keep tempting me to play video games.
Huh?
That's a really good question, Prabhu.
Yeah. Relevant.
Very relevant.
Here's an answer for you, Radha. It has to come from inside. I know some young people your age that they're at both ends of the spectrum. Some are very easily distracted by the things that you just described, other kids and phones in their hand and video games and stuff. And they're already there. They're not just distracted, easily distracted. They're already there, or they're somewhere. They're trying, but they're distracted. And then there's some that's they find contentment because from mantra meditation. One student told me, listen to this one. What's your name? Kriti. So one student, it was a boy, said, his mom asked him, why do you like chanting? He said, because I don't have to think about all that math stuff. I can just be, peaceful and contented, and he really likes chanting. Now that helps him with the math stuff, because when his mind is focused, he can do the math stuff really easy. And when his mind isn't focused, then it's like a struggle. When your consciousness is elevated, you can easily do the temporary things. And when your mind is not consciousness is not elevated, temporary things become struggle. Even the ones you can do, what to speak of the ones that are, above your head. So, Radha, it comes from within. And so if you don't have it, how are you going to get it? If it comes from within and I'm distracted, then it's the cultivation. Bhakti, as you know, from Prabhupada's Nectar of Devotion, bhakti is a sort of cultivation. That's what Prabhupada writes. And that means cultivation means following elevated persons. So in your life, there are some elevated persons. As you're the one guiding your family, as the spiritual master of your parents and you, I'm there. Your mother and father are there, and there are other exalted Vaishnavas that you have connection with, and they're the example-setting people who you can be inspired by. Now you're in a 9-year-old girl's body, and you have different things you like to do besides chanting. But if there's something over there's friends that are doing distracted stuff. If you find contentment within, and just being with Krishna, with faith that the more I can be absorbed in this, I can feel that Krishna connection in my life, then you'll be able to withstand or become less attracted by that distraction. It has to come from within, and by cultivation with faith. So find those persons who have that faith and keep their association. Those in your age group, those who are somewhat older than you, because I know you have some friends that are older than you that are nice examples for you to be with, and adults who you can look up to and aspire to serve and be like, and that will give you that inner strength that you need. Okay?
This is from Sanchari Mataji from Houston. Guru Maharaj, apologies if this question is a bit scattered. Trying to find a way to ask if that makes more sense than what I feel it is. When watching the video where Srila Prabhupada spoke about what his initial days were like, and in seeing the response of what it was like to what it is now, was there ever a feeling that even back then, all those that were there from the beginning, such as yourself and your god brothers and sisters, knew that it was so much bigger than it could be seen at that moment? That's the first question.
Before we go to the second question, let me respond.
Yeah.
Prabhupada had, because of his purity and his faith, he had the capacity to inspire our conviction that anything can happen. The world can become Krishna conscious. The hills of West Virginia can become a tropical place. It's like, Chicago will become Hawaii or something. I mean, Prabhupada had the capacity to inspire our conviction that impossible is not a word in our dictionary. So, his idea was the world should be Krishna conscious. And what that meant, and that the hill that we had to climb to make, we found out soon enough it takes a lot to help even a neighbor in your neighborhood want to hear Srimad Bhagavatam, what to speak of the world becoming Krishna conscious. But purity is the force, and he had all conviction, and he passed it on to his followers, and Mission Impossible was no problem. That's what it was like. And yeah, we knew it would be bigger than what it was at that time. We had no idea how it would unfold, but we just had conviction. Prabhupada's our leader, and we're following our leader. He's going to make the world Krishna conscious. One reporter once asked Prabhupada, Swamiji, your movement is growing so fast. Maybe one day you'll be elected president. And Prabhupada just laughed and said, I can advise the president.
So the continuation of the question is, or was the greatness of the moment and the potential of what it could be understood and known? Did you all know back then the immensity of what ISKCON would grow to be?
We didn't have, we were immature kids. Just frankly. There were some persons that were older, but in the beginning, largely it was young people. And we didn't have any idea of worldly things. We had the idea of, inspiration and, conquest and adventure and things like that.
This question is from Mahati Mataji. What is the difference between chanting before and after initiation?
Two things. The formality of initiation is formalizing the connection with disciplic succession and thus with Krishna. So we can say before is practice and the other is connected more completely or more officially. A second that's described in Hari Bhakti Vilas, Divyam Jnanam Yato Dadyat Kuryat Yapapa Sasangshaya Tata Diksheti Tata Proktas Deshikais Tatfako Vidai. The verse says that two things at the time of initiation, Divyam Jnanam Yato Dadyat, transcendental knowledge is awakened or given, and Kuryat Papasya Sangshaya, sins are taken at the time of Diksha. So there's obstacles that we're dealing with before Diksha, and those obstacles are, the potential is those obstacles can be fully removed. The potential is that those obstacles can be fully removed through the process of Diksha. There's other things that happen after Diksha, but the formality of spiritual connection is established. So that's good. Okay.
This is from Rohini Nandan Prabhu. I like to chant and eagerly look forward to my next morning chanting. But still, I feel my chanting slowly becomes monotonous and get into the mood of just getting my 16 rounds done. How to improve?
Well, the question that Rohini Nandana is asking is a question that we address every time we have a japa retreat or festival of the holy name. So each of those are probably like 8 to 10 hours of discussion on that topic. So I suggest that he goes to those recordings and listens again and again and again and internalizes those messages. To go from mechanical to devotional chanting requires a change of heart, a transformation of heart. And that transformation is a gradual process that's facilitated by the things that you'll hear, rather than taking one thing or two things and doing them inadequately. Hear those descriptions in those recordings. Okay?
So, one question, Guru Maharaj. This is from Vinod Prabhu. Was Hare Krishna Maha Mantra there before Lord Chaitanya's appearance?
Yes. Haridas Thakur chanted Hare Krishna before Lord Chaitanya's appearance, etc. Okay. The ladies of the house, anything?
How'd you become a Maharaj?
How did I become a Maharaj? Well, it's an interesting story. Before I was a Maharaj, I was a Das Brahmachari. And before that, I was a college kid. But then I became a Brahmachari. I was just, it's not like I was thinking, hey, I want to be a Brahmachari when I grow up. I was very interested in the process, the bhakti process, Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada, and everything, chanting. I really like chanting. So I thought, rather than just like look and see from the outside, let me jump in the pool. Bhakti Siddhanta gave this nice teaching. He said, if you want to know what the taste of honey is, you don't lick the jar. You have to open the top, stick your finger in, and then you can taste the honey. So I said, let me do that. Let's go for a while. Prabhupada created these ashrams where we could get training, and so let me go spend some time. And then from that, it was just like an experiment, and it became a long experiment. And so I'm living as a brahmachari, and one day, my authority tapped me on the shoulder and said, hey, you want some good news? You've been approved to take sannyas. I didn't know that there was a procedure. I didn't know nothing about nothing. I was just, too happy being a nice brahmachari in the temple. So I said, huh? And he said, how come you're not dancing? And I said, well, what do I need sannyas for? He said, well, it can increase your preaching. And I said, I've got more preaching than I can do in 10 lifetimes. More preaching. So he said, oh, so you're attached. And I didn't know what he meant. But you asked a question, so I'm giving you the answer. somebody up, in that hierarchy said he's qualified to take sannyas. I didn't know that they were discussing. I didn't know that there was a procedure, but that had happened, and it took a few years. And they were like, so what he meant, you're attached, is a brahmachari can become married, but a sannyasi cannot. So if you take sannyas, then that's it. You can't get married. That's what he meant. I didn't understand what he meant when he said it. But I had no interest. So some time passed and everybody was telling me, oh, you've been approved for sannyas, you should take sannyas. I said, why? Because it'll expand your preaching. I've got enough preaching. Well, you'll have more than enough. And there's all this encouragement. So I thought, okay, I'll take sannyas. So that's how I became a sannyasi, a Maharaj. And it was difficult because a brahmachari is trained to pay obeisances to everybody and serve everybody. Now the very day that I had a sannyas danda, you know what a danda is? It's a rod that it is the sign of one who has taken sannyas, wrapped in saffron cloth. It's a sign of a sannyasi. They carry a stick, danda, rod. It's only there's three: body, mind, and soul, dedicated in service to Krishna. That's what it. So then everybody's paying obeisances because I'm a Maharaj. And so I would pay obeisances back. They said, no, you're not supposed to do that. I said, what do you mean I'm not supposed to do that? I pay obeisances to people. Don't tell me I'm not supposed to do that. They said, no, but it's good for people that they pay obeisances to a sannyasi. It's spiritually beneficial. It took about 3 months, and I finally got, okay. As a service to others. That's all. Because I'm just an ordinary little guy, I'm nobody special. But if it's good for people, then I can do that service. That's how I became a Maharaj. By study of the scriptures, by setting a good example, by being very involved in reaching out to the public, outreach. So, I was just like that. I was energized to do that. So that made me a candidate in their eyes. And so then it was awarded by the structure that I'm part of. Another question. You got the microphone.
Not a question, but I have something to say.
Same question?
No, different.
Different.
It's not a question, but it's like a statement. So I go a comment, yeah. So I go to this reading club, ISKCON Reading Club, and we're reading the book Ocean of Mercy.
Ah.
And so it's about Bhakti Char Swami.
Yes.
And how Prabhupada, how he handles with him. And so he does cooking, Bhakti Char Swami. And so Prabhupada asks why you do cooking. And he says, I have no other stuff to do. Only thing I can do is cook for you.
So I missed it. It was just a comment. You appreciated that exchange. Prabhupada was very affectionate. And Bhakti Chumaraj was eager for affection. It was a good combination. You're going to be silent. Okay. So I guess we're done. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.